So in my previous video, I talked about how to tune the bass drum. Today, I'm going to talk about how to tune the tenor drums, not only to harmonize with the bass drum, but the pipes as well. Hey, welcome back. So we've got a bass drum tuned to B flat, and it's sounding good. But now we need to tune our tenor drums. But what note do we want to aim for? Let's start with taking that B flat and looking at it on a keyboard or piano. There's a chord B flat major that we can look at and target those notes out of that chord. So looking at a keyboard, we have B flat, D, and F that make up the B flat major chord. So we can take that D and F and apply it to our tenor drums. But what tenor drum should you tune to which note? That has to do with the size. So tenor drums come in all different shapes and sizes, but they're all smaller than the bass drum. 20 inch, 18 inch, 16 inch, 14 inch, a range of sizes. And these sizes help determine what you tune your drum to. Take a 14 inch. That can be tuned as high as the next B flat in that same octave. So looking back at our chord, we had the B flat, we had the D and the F. The next note to aim for that 14 inch drum would be either the F or that B flat. And the 16 inches, again, they can be tuned to a couple of different notes, and they are probably your most versatile drum. Alright, so the 16 inch, that's our next size. That's probably your most versatile drum. It can be tuned to a range of different notes, but generally I like to target those middle notes, the D and the F. You can get it as low as the B flat or as high as the next B flat in that octave. So bear that in mind when tuning your drums. And finally the 18 inch. It's our big daddy. So it can be tuned to B flat. It can also be tuned to D. And some people can get them to an F depending on the heads that you use. All this is kind of needs to be taken into consideration when tuning your drums. I am having me some haggis today. Camerons make this. They're based in Florida. Not sponsored, by the way. Haggis over here is different from haggis in Scotland. The ingredients are different. Back in the 70s, the US actually put a ban on certain animal products being used in food. So that's why there's a slight difference. But Camerons do a good job. I've had their haggis before. It's very good. And I know it was Robert Burns Day not too long ago. I had some haggis then. This is one I had left over, so I'm going to cook it up. So, on a piano keyboard, there are several B flats. The B flat that the bass drum is at is actually lower, a whole octave lower than the B flat of the bass drum. And likewise, that B flat of a tenor drum, the 18 inch or 20 inch tenor drum, is higher than what the bass drum would be. So keep that in mind. You don't want to be aiming for that exact same note because your tenor drums just won't get there. Now, the D and F are in the same octave as the tenor drum B flat. So we've got our first octave, which is super low, the bass drum. Then an octave above that is the B flat bass drone of the pipers. Then, as we keep going up the octaves and up the scale, we have the D, the F, and into the next octave, the next B flat up. So we're covering 3 octaves with our instruments. So the octave can be determined by the tuner on our phone. Looking at it, let me pull it up on my phone. So looking at it, we have a letter, and that letter determines the note. But next to it, we have a number, and that determines what octave we're in. 1 being the lowest, 2 being the next high, and 3 being higher still. So here I'm demonstrating the different octaves of the bass, tenor, and bagpipes. To start with, we have the bass drum. This one's been cold, so it's not going to hit the proper note, but should still be within the octave it needs to be in. The next, I'm going to fire up the bass drone on the bagpipes. And finally, I'm going to fire up the tenor drone of the bagpipes. Alright, so we've covered the octaves. The bass drum being the lowest, and everything being up from that. It looks like, from what I can see, we cover a good 3 octaves between us and the bagpipes, which is amazing. So haggis is like a Scottish soul food. It's hearty, good for you, and back in the day, it was, you know, the only things they could afford was the essentially the leftovers from the animal carcass. And so the Scots, you know, put this together with oats and some, you know, considered poor man's seasonings, and came up with the haggis. And haggis recipes differ all over Scotland. It's kind of like your grandma's mac and cheese recipe. Every family has a different recipe. So there's no real one set standard for haggis. Some are made out of lamb, some are made with pig, some are made with deer, depending on what they could find, you know, laying around the land. There's a great start on what notes to tune which drums. Now, when they're all played together, they should play a note. So experiment with those notes. You know, see which fits best for your tenor drums, and then you can begin writing music to the notes that you know your tenor drums can support. Just 2 weeks away for the Northeast Florida Highland Games, which is brilliant. They are still on. No signs of being cancelled as of yet. So I will be there, and the bass drum competition will be going on. Several of you bought t-shirts. I'm very thankful for that. Thank you. So as always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next time.